Good morning, everyone. Hello, hi there.
Good morning.
Hi, Nick. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, all good, all good. Hi, Ruben, Oscar,
Hi,
Edwin.
Lindsay. Good morning.
Hey, guys. All right, we've got Javier, Tom, Eric, Judith, Lucia, Nico. Great to see you guys. Thank you for joining us for another coffee chat. We're back. I hope you guys are enjoying your summer. A lot of folks are on vacation in these months in North America, but great to see you all here. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Lindsay Lehr. I'm Managing Director of PCMI, or Payments and Commerce Market Intelligence. And this is our 4th year running of hosting these bi-monthly meetings. The purpose of our coffee chats is to provide a space for ongoing, mutual, and open learning around the payments industry, primarily in Latin America. And we're thrilled to have you here. You will quickly see that this is not your typical webinar. Okay, we really encourage open and active participation from all of our attendees. So if we go ahead to the next slide, we'll just cover a few guidelines to make this a really successful conversation. Our standard legal notice, take into consideration all our disclaimers there. But more interesting, if we go to the next slide, please remember, this is an open meeting that is being recorded, and we do publish these recordings to our YouTube channel. So just keep that in mind when making any comments. Also know that this is an open meeting. We could have competitors, investors, journalists, all kinds of folks in here. So, you know, just mind your comments like you would at any typical in-person event. All right. Most importantly, this is a participatory event. So please, we like your cameras on. We want you to participate with questions and comments. You can raise your hand. You can wave at me. You can unmute your mic and jump in at any time. You can throw a question in the chat. And I'll count on my usual suspects to get the conversation going. All right. So with that, again, welcome, and let's go ahead. I just a couple of quick announcements. Some of you may have already been playing around with our new intelligence portal that we've made available to you guys only. We haven't even rolled this out to our wider audience yet, but this is a platform where you can access all of our historic thought leadership, infographic reports, data sources, with links to our YouTube channel, with links to our blog, searchable content. And so I get emails almost on a weekly basis. Lindsay, do you have this type of information? Do you have this type of information? We've now put it at your fingertips for you to browse and freely access. It's a free resource. So go ahead and scan the QR and sign up and start playing around with the tool. We're really evolving this over time. This is just a first iteration of kind of an experiment. So please feel free to get your hands dirty and start looking at what we have there. Okay, moving ahead, I'm also very excited, and I want to invite you guys to an event that I'll be participating at in September, an IPR, Innovation in Payments and Remittances. It's focused on cross-border payments and remittances, really in Europe, Africa, and Asia. So I'm excited to be speaking at this event, and I would love to invite our network. We do have a discount code, so if you are interested, please get in touch. If you're based in the area or think you'll be interested in traveling, let me know, and we can help you get signed up at a discounted rate, thanks to our participation in the event. So just wanted to make that available to you. And if we go ahead, I think that's our last announcement, and we'll get right into our discussion today. So I'm really excited to introduce Juan Fantoni, co-founder and CCO of Pomelo, which is a really fascinating company, banking as a service company that we're going to be kind of deep diving into and talking about this really fantastic area of the industry that's kind of on the cutting edge and doing some really cool things. So welcome, Juan. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you for welcome. Thrilled to be here.
Awesome. So Juan, today, guys, we don't have presentation slides. It's going to be really a conversation. That's why we especially encourage you guys to jump in and ask questions, and also add from your own experience and comments. But Juan, let's just start. If you could tell the group about yourself, your background, and a little bit about Pomelo.
Sure. Well, like you said, I'm one of the founders of Pomelo. I run the business development teams. Before Pomelo, I was part of Mastercard. I run the fintech business for the South region of Latam. And there is actually when this opportunity or this very real pain became very clear for me and my co-founders. I founded Pomelo with Herman, who spent 12 years in Mercado Pago, and Gaston, who was the CEO of Naranja X. So the three of us have been working in fintech for a while, and what we all share is we understood this very very obvious pain that I'm sure everyone in this room has felt, is that many companies, fintechs, banks, or just tech companies were trying to innovate in the fintech space, and they were launching products much faster and better than never before. But the infrastructure in which they were building was the exact same infrastructure that has been being used in the last 30 years in Latin America. So they were very limited on what they could do. And this was also very fragmented. So each country will have their own infrastructure, as equally old. So when you see a company trying to launch more than one country, it took them probably 5 years to launch 3 countries. You see, the biggest fintechs in Latin America, they after 10 years they're in 3 countries. This is because each new country requires to be connected to a very old and different infrastructure to the previous one. That's why, with this in mind, we started Pomelo almost 3 years ago, and that's basically what Pomelo is solving. We are a new generation of fintech infrastructure for Latin America.
So Juan,
We
can you, what do you
yeah,
exactly mean by infrastructure?
yeah,
Are you
yeah.
talking
That's
about acquirers, processors, banks?
yeah.
What are you actually talking about?
Yeah, yeah. Let me. This very difficult word translate to what it actually means. So, where Pomelo started is we currently operate in 2 businesses. The first one is cards, and by cards I mean we build an issuer processor from scratch, and we also hold Mastercard and Visa licenses. So any company in Latin America that wants to issue a card, we are a one-stop shop for issuing and processing these cards. And in this space, we have clients, multiple industries. We have traditional banks that want the technology to issue cards. We have fintechs that also do it this way, and we have crypto, corporate cards, debit cards. So many different industries. And in this business, the infrastructure could be only the technology, like a bank will make, or the technology plus the Visa or Mastercard license. The other business we operate is banking as a service. So this is we also call it virtual accounts. So the ability for our clients to provide accounts to their customers. And in this space, we not only build the technology, but we also hold regulatory licenses that allow us to do this in multiple countries in Latin America. And in this space, the industry that we provide this service to is even wider, right? Because when someone that's not from the fintech or banking space wants to enter this business, they need more services like this. So here we have agro companies, logistics companies, retailers, you know, I mean, many companies that want to build the fintech product to a business. So those two are the main we operate in. Right now we're operating in 5 countries, and we open the next one. The countries we operate are Brazil and Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, Peru, and we're operating in Chile. And we are at different stages with these 2 products in different stages. Cards are available everywhere, and banking as a service we are opening as the regulator starts to approve our licenses. We're opening these countries.
Got it. Okay. So let's imagine, right? I guess my question, understanding your two services, right? Card issuing and processing and fintech bank as a service, or basically issuing digital accounts. So who are your customers? Who are you enabling? Who will go for work with Pomelo instead of going through traditional channels?
Yeah. Okay, on the card space, are usually more traditional players. It could be a typical bank that wants to issue card. The cards in the region usually use the local infrastructure, and these are platforms that have been built 30 years ago. So many banks that want to go to the next level, launch a new product, they usually look for more agile and innovative platforms, especially banks that have moved into a more agile way of working. So that's a typical work. Traditional thing that right now we can call traditional fintechs. They've been here for a while. So the typical neobank wallet, they're launching cards with that. Also crypto in Latin America. 90% of the crypto cards that are available in Latin America are built on top of Pomelo infrastructure. So that's a vertical we're very strong in. And also we have corporate cards, delivery apps, also launching cards. That on the card side. The banking as a service, there is more, logistic companies. Agro is a big thing in Latin America, especially Brazil and Argentina. Agro business is very, very strong, and retailers. But like in Pomelo, we really build on the thesis that every company could be a fintech. So that's something that we're very strong in. So what we call embedded finance. So we have different companies in different stages trying to understand if their business is up to or is open to deliver financial services, and we've seen that is very successful in the region.
So okay, so I get, the card space, you said it's kind of a little bit more of traditional players, plus crypto and some gig economy or type companies. Yeah. But then you mentioned for the digital account side, logistics companies, agro companies, and retailers. Can you talk a little bit more about what are they trying to accomplish? Yeah. For example, the agro play for me is very obvious and very relevant for the region. So when you see the agro business is all about financial services. So you have a producer that needs a loan to start to build the crops, and then they need an insurance during the crop, and then once they have the harvest, they need to invest all the money, and in also the process they need to pay. Right? So it's everything that you can think about a financial services company is included in that business. And right now, the only ones serving the producers were traditional banks, and they usually either are not very specialized in this, or they just haven't evolved that much. So you have lots of fintechs targeting specifically this segment, and that they know about and they know much better. And not only fintechs, but you have the traditional suppliers of these companies, like the companies selling the seeds, that they really know this business and they wanna build more services to their customers. So, for example, someone that sells seeds or different supplies for the agro business, they add an account and they add loans and they add a card, and they know a lot more about the business and the producers than any other financial services company. That's why we thinking, especially in embedded finance, the whole fintech as a service or banking as a service makes so much sense. But that's just an example. So you're empowering the agro specific fintechs that want to serve this segment, or are you actually empowering the producers themselves? No, the fintechs that usually provide services to the producers.
But not only fintech, also companies like I say, like the company that sell the seed. It's not a fintech, but wants to give a loan to the producer, or they know the loan the producer so well, they can definitely give much better financial services than a traditional bank.
Mhm. Got it. In the case of a company that's selling the seeds, right? That's
Mhm.
that's quite interesting. And on this point of everyone can be a fintech, I mean,
Mhm.
that's probably the least fintech company you can imagine, right? A
Well,
company selling seeds. So
yeah,
can you talk about, what kind of challenges do they have
yeah,
solving?
yeah. So it's true that it's a less fintech, but it's definitely a company that has been doing financial services for a long time. Even though they sell seeds, it's usually with a loan, it's usually with payments, it's a lot around that. So the main challenge they have is um, first is regulatory, right? If I'm in the business of selling seeds, I don't want to go to the central bank to get a license and understand how much I need to learn or build to start this. It's usually any process with any central bank in Latin America is probably between 15 months and 3 years. So imagine if a company that's not a financial services company at heart wants to start a project, if they had to think 2 years ahead, it's probably a project that's never going to happen. So when you build on top of someone like Pomelo, you can do it much cheaper, and the barriers to entry are much lower. So I will say the main thing these companies the challenge they have is the big barrier to enter and the big knowledge they need to get the basics, and that's what Pomelo actually sells. So solves. We build the technology, we build the regulatory, and they can build on top. And what they build on top is the part that they actually companies are good at, the experience to their customer. That they know better than anyone. Like I said, the companies selling seeds, they know the producer better than anyone. They know when they buy, how they want to interact with. So that's the part that they build, but they don't have the ability or the knowledge to build regulatory or fintech specific infrastructure.
Okay, okay. And so a lot of what you're providing is the regulatory compliance piece.
Plus the technology. I think it's the combination of both. I think is what makes it huge difference. And this is important because we've seen um, some other players around the world and also in Latin America that they're not combined. So you have someone providing the regulatory piece, someone providing the technology, and that multiplicity of players in the middle makes everything so slow. And when there's an issue, you don't know where to call. Combining this, I think that's the secret sauce that Pomelo has, and that's why we've been growing so fast.
So I have a question on that. So if you're providing some of the regulatory aspect, are you taking on liability for those customers that you're providing the services to are actually legitimate and follow through? Do you take on some of that liability?
Absolutely, great question. Yes, that's a big part of it. As we hold the regulatory license in front of regulation, we are responsible uh, to make sure that we have compliance with AML, different terror lists. So we actually have an identity solution that we provide to our customers. So our customers' clients go through our identity process to understand that it's a real customer, and it's available to get an account in that specific country, comply with the regulation. So absolutely.
Does that make sense, Nick? See your thinking.
Yes, I'm processing this because regulations, banking regulations, as you know, as you already said, in fact, every country is different. Every country has its own pitfalls that are hidden unless you've gone through it yourself. So making it easier for companies to get into by providing that foundation for them is fantastic. However, there are obligations with those. Those regulations didn't appear out of nowhere just to make life difficult. They're there to protect people. They were written to protect people. And if your clients falter, you may be held responsible. And you may be held responsible for not informing your clients of what they need to do, because they may just not know. So there's an education aspect to this as well, I'm sure, when it comes to your clients, not to the end users. That's a different story, but to a business that's looking to be a fintech, they're looking to provide what, let's say, lending money to seed producers. There we go. They don't want to have, they understand the seed industry. They don't understand the financial industry, but lending money, that's an issue. And so you can provide that roadmap, I'm sure. And that's going to be part of it. So
yeah, absolutely. And imagine this if you want to launch a fintech in 5 countries, like tackling, currently Pomelo is in we already hold 2 regulatory licenses and we're in process with 3 other central banks. So, nailing what country for example, a seed company, nailing one country might be possible for them, but when you think about 5 Latin American countries, it's nearly impossible unless you are someone like us, that we are experts in this. But like you said, we approve each of our customers' clients go through our KYC, and that's a big part of our operation of the service we do.
So Juan, how comfortable are regulators across the region with this model?
Yeah. In general, I will argue they're comfortable and they're pushing it. Brazil very big on this. Colombia had just include this in the regulation, because in some countries this was happening without the regulation specifying if it's allowed or not, right? That was happening. So regulators have been adapting this model. So the main countries of Latin America, Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, Chile, Peru, they're open, and this is happening very fast. Except Mexico. Mexico, I'll put in a different bucket. The regulator has been very explicit against this. Yeah, so that I say it's an anomaly. It's different from all the countries. We actually expect that to change. We don't see why Mexico should have like a different view from the rest of the world in that sense. So we're hoping for that to change. But the rest of the countries, they're very, very open to this. Regulators don't have the capability of, launching the amount of licensing and processing of the speed of new fintechs are being launched. So they see this as a way of making this available, but at the same time, like Nick saying, they put all the responsibility on someone like Pomelo. We're held accountable, and we're able to operate much faster than a regulation in terms of controlling what's happening on top of our platform. So they see this as a multiplier, and they rather have one big player held accountable, and which they know very well, and they trust the technology, that have a multiplicity of players trying to enter this market.
And what I have a question on this. You mentioned that there are countries in Latin America that are more advanced than others. But how is this globally? Like, is Brazil being a leader, a global leader on this aspect, or this already happens in other regions like Europe or Asia? I don't know if you have any examples on this.
Yeah, no, it's happening everywhere. US is very, you have several players in this space. Europe, also Asia, like the regulations are open to this everywhere. So it's a very clear trend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To that, great question, Sullivan. And a lot of times, in the US, when you open a new account with a fintech or something, always in the fine print, like these services are being provided by XYZ bank holding company, you know, whatever. But a lot of times they're banks, right? So the question I have is, is there a trend of banks who hold all the licenses getting into this game as well? Do you compete with banks in terms of providing banking as a service in some of these verticals?
Yeah, that's a great observation. So in the US, the only institution allowed to give accounts and cards are banks. So you absolutely need a bank to
A banking
provide
license
this.
to do this in the US.
That's the only way you can do it. So every fintech is built on top of a bank, right? In Latin America,
there's like 6,000 banks. There's a lot of variety.
yeah,
So
there are
it's a little
so many
different
banks.
right.
In Latin America and in Europe, you have the bank license, but you also have what we call like e-money license. Each country has a different name for this, so it's called IP in Brazil, PSP in Argentina. So each company has a different name for it, but it's basically an e-money license, which is a license that allows you to hold money from the consumers and issue cards, and that's different from the US. So in Europe and in Latin America, you see different entities that are not banks providing this banking as a service. That said, banks can also provide this. So we do compete in some cases with banks providing this service, but we also provide the technology for banks to do this. So we are like in both spaces. Some banks use our technology, our card issuing technology, to provide banking as a service. So yeah.
So in very typical payments industry, you have partners, frenemies, competitors, clients, all in one company.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Yeah. So on the card side, you're sort of like a white label issuer. Would that be one way of putting it?
Yeah, or it was called more like an issuer processor. Because for me, white label, it's part of the business. But for example, for a bank, we provide the technology, and that's just pure technology. The bank holds the licenses and all the representatives. We only provide licenses. But we also have licenses, so we can provide a more one-stop shop.
Program manager.
That's what a program manager. That's what we go with one level. But we operate in those two levels.
Got it.
Yeah,
if
a bank wants to do it all, they can do it all through you. Or if they just need to issue, you have everything ready to go as a program manager and just issue a co-branded card.
Exactly. But it's a big difference. No, what I was going to say that many program managers, they use a processor on the back, right? And that thing that's I mentioned this before. This is a secret sauce of Pomelo. We're integrated. So if you have an issue with us, you're the only one you have to talk to. And that could be a headache when you have multiple companies providing you a service.
I had a question over there, Juan. Very good, interesting. When you offer the service in the process, you offer the service as a bank, you offer the service because you have a different layer here. You have the cards, you have the KYC process, the anti-money laundering, and you have the lending process. It's 4 different layers for different process, and the money keeping is a very delicate process in the activity. You keep it a specific money in each country. Suppose you can move the money from Brazil to Argentina. That is possible for your side, or is it a different service?
So let me see if I understand. You're talking like cross-border, if I can send money from one country to...
Because you have the wallet.
Yeah. Not right now. That's not a service we provide. But as we are opening more and more countries, eventually we will have a very strong network all through Latin America to do that. You usually need another license specific to do this, to do cross-border payments or transfers, which we currently do not hold, but that's definitely something we're looking into.
Okay, you only need to open the license. One license with you, you can enable the process in all the countries with the different layers, the wallet, the payment process, because it's e-money, you can make process, the cards, issues, and receive the process. and you made the allocation for the processor local in each country. For example, each country you're gonna process locally with each one of the local processors. You're gonna have the issue, is it gonna be an international car, it's gonna be a local car? How you gonna, in what money, what currency you're gonna make it happen?
Yeah, so we are actually the local processor in each
Okay.
country. We're not connected, so we're connected to Visa, MasterCard
Correct.
ourselves.
You're level 1, or let me see that
Exactly.
way, processor.
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, I say the main countries in Latin America have what we call the brands have like local switching, so you don't need to connect to a local infrastructure. In
Okay.
Mexico, there's something going on, but in general,
Special country, forget about it. That is a regular regulation for the Mexican guys. It's a different.
yeah. But the good thing is we don't use local infrastructure in each country. It's our own technology connected directly to Visa Master.
Okay.
And that's a big deal because we don't depend on anyone. We can go as fast as we can go.
Okay, that's interesting. Either the loan process is going to be handled by the partner or is handled for you side, because this is another risk you need to include it. The risk to lending or loan money is a different risk to KYC process. It's a
We provide the technology and the licenses. We don't provide the capital or the lending itself. So our clients are the one lending the money. We provide the underlying technology.
This case, you only process the service, and they're gonna have to have the risk and the money to lend in the money. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Exactly.
Great. Process.
Yeah, for example, we have a very big fintech that issue credit cards. They have like 2 million credit cards. So we are the technology behind it, but all the scoring, the lending, and the collect, it's on their side.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
And that goes back to you guys being an infrastructure company, not necessarily financing service.
So we usually say like we're not in the financial services business. That's our client business. We just provide everything they need for them to do it.
But Juan, can you describe the modules that you have in your platform? For instance, I mean, I get the card issuing piece, which is relatively simple. I mean, you have a charge card, which you advertise, and it's a charge card or a prepaid card. So that part I understand, but help me visualize, for instance, when you say that you provide banking as a service, right? So I'm equating that to the equivalent of a core banking system, right? That has account origination, the account itself, the general ledger on the back end, and then if you provide banking as a service for a bank, right? There's the lending piece, right? So you have applications, you have underwriting, risk management, the loan engine, so to speak, right? Interest calculations, things like that. So can you describe for us the modules that, when you put them together, you have, let's say, a traditional bank, or, some of the modules that you incorporate. Let's say that I'm a fintech and I'm really good at onboarding new customers and assigning, a risk profile for Pedro's application, right? But I need a switch module, through you, so I can process, the card authorization and the card issuance and things like that. So you help us visualize in terms of, the card issuing, I get it, but in terms of the banking as a service, how deep do you go in terms of a core banking application?
So just to clarify on the card, it's not only prepaid, we also have credit and debit. And what I mean when I say credit card, we also have the credit engine behind the credit card, right? So what you say, interest, quotas or installments, which is a big deal in Latin America, and all that. So that's the card part. On the banking as a service, we have, like you say, a ledger and core banking, but we also, not only the technology, we have the license. So for example, let's start with Brazil, which is where we have this product more developed. We have an IP license or Institución de Pagamento license, which means we like an e-money license. We have the core to hold the money, and we have the connection to the local infrastructure. In this case, in Brazil is Pix, right? Which allows them to transfer in and out. And we have an identity product, which allow us to KYC the
KYC.
customers.
Perfect.
Because we won't, like we were talking before, it's our responsibility. So we also do that. So that's what we provide right now in banking as a service, plus what we call bill payments, right? So what our customers could be right now is an account with money in and out, and bill payments use that money plus a card connected to the account. That's the current offer we can provide. Of course, this in the future can evolve to
Right.
every financial service is available. So we can have right now we don't, but we can add a lending platform, an investment platform, a crypto platform, an insurance platform, more and more. But right now, with this, I'll say with this basic setup, our customers can add on their side also. Some of our customers, they have the account and they're doing loans on our account, right? So they disperse the loan on our accounts. They're taking all the loan operation, but the disbursement is being done on our
The
account.
vehicle, the liquidity vehicle is the card. Okay, understood.
Yeah, exactly. That right now, for example, we have a couple of lending companies that they were doing all the lending, but then they were sending the money to another institution.
Right.
And they say, okay, let's
Now they control it
keep
with a
this.
branded card. Yeah, makes sense
Exactly.
from a customer relationship standpoint. Thank you, Juan.
Sure.
Right, so I have a question. You're on the issuing side of the cards and on lending. Are you involved on the acquiring side?
Not at the moment. No, we're not. Could be a possibility in the future, but right now we're all on the issuing cards, issuing accounts.
So Juan, I like that. I'm glad you mentioned PIX. And a lot of the discussions we have in this room are around PIX and real-time payments and new types of payments. So my question is, how do you see Pomelo and your clients growing going forward? Are you experiencing, how is the card business comparing to banking as a service business, and how are PIX disrupting how your customers are thinking about services and banking? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I actually spent the first half of this year in Brazil. So I was really immersed in the PIX world. Just to level, I don't know if anyone is very aware of what PIX, but just to level, PIX is a payment method implemented by the Brazilian Central Bank, which is basically an account-to-account transfer, completely free, instant transfer, and that has picked up very, very fast. The innovative part about this, or about this, how this central bank implemented this, is that they were very specific on how to do it. So not only the how it works, but even how the UX should be. The actual screens are part of the regulation. So when you go into any bank or fintech in Brazil and you enter their app, you will have a PIX button right in front of it. So it was very, very well implemented by the central bank, and this has picked up very fast. Right now in Brazil, you have more PIX transactions than debit card transactions. So it's really at a very high level, and it's an absolute reality. So merchants are really into it because it's free and it's instant compared to cards. So it has been there. And the way we see at Pomelo this evolving, we see a multi-rail world, right? So we're not seeing a winner, like a winner takes all. It's more multiple rails in which the customer chooses to pay. So you have the card rail, and you have the real-time payments or account-to-account payments, and you have crypto. It's just a little more far in the future, but these are like just different rails that the consumers are starting to use. And that's why for us, the banking as a service is very complementary to cards, right? Because with this banking license, we're able to be a part of the instant payment rails, and that's something our customers want, right? So when you see fintechs in Latin America, they want to have the card rate, but they also have the account to account rate, and that's really complements the business. Also, it's something important. Like I say, like you have more Pix than debit card transactions, but debit card transactions in Brazil are still growing. So it's not a zero-sum game. We're seeing, the pie get bigger and bigger in every country.
And Juan, if I may ask you a follow-up question on that,
Yeah.
what's the use case that you're seeing or that you're supporting with Pix in Brazil? I mean, is it a consumer-driven application, or is it on the merchant side? Someone else asked about acquiring, and what I've seen is that merchants are really driving or enabling the customers to pay directly with their bank account rather than a card, because again, it's
Cheaper.
4 cents versus 2.75% in Brazil. So can you shed some light as to what are the use cases that you guys are supporting?
Yeah. And the main is P2P. So it's not merchant, it's person to person. That used to be done a lot in cash and a lot of other types of transfer. Right now, they all move to Pix, and that has grown significantly. And it's just a new, like I say, a new part of the pie, right? That was not there, right? And now it's part of instant payments. Yeah, that you have some P2M merchants pushing for this. But I say in physical store, the experience right now is not as good as cards. So you have some of that, but I say, especially in very small merchants, the person selling the coconut in the beach, that's Pix right now in Brazil.
Yeah, P2P, yeah.
Yeah, it's P2M, but it's kind of almost P2P.
Right. Yeah.
And in Brazil, there's a specific use case that had there's a lot of traction, but this is specific to Brazil. In Brazil, debit cards were not accepted online. Right? You have a big legacy, a big legacy of debit cards not being accepted. So Pix online on online stores, that's a huge use case. It's getting a lot of traction.
Let me ask you something, a follow-up question to that P2P account to account transfer issue and the value of the directory, right? So you can use an alias or a token to increase the security of the ecosystem in general. So just pick your brain, your thoughts on the directory service. Where do you see that going? Or do you see, different islands growing together, right? I mean, closed loop networks developing their own directories, such as Cell here in the US, Venmo, Payo, right?
I mean, when you have a very good regulation like the Brazilian one, and the central bank is in charge of that directory, that's the killer solution.
Right.
But it has to be enforced. I think, like, I'm not an expert on Fed now, but what I'm hearing is it's kind of like
I was driving at that. The Fed now it's launching in July, and it's behind the clearinghouse RTP network, which the same owners operate Cell, and so they have their own closed ecosystem with a directory. But the Fed doesn't have that, and it's contrary, I guess, to the American way of doing things, right? In our countries, it's different because you have a central bank that plays a heavy hand, right? And actually, if you look at literature, they say the central bank owns the payment system, and so they're more. I mean, it's different. The whole ecosystem is different, right? So let's say in our countries, and I'm from Venezuela, which is completely out of the game now, but in terms of market structure, you have 5 dominant banks that have 80% of all assets, and they control. They have, I don't want to say they control, but they have a heavy lobbying effort behind the regulators, right? And so it's easier, right, when you have 50, 80 players rather than 5,000 banks and 10,000 financial entities here in the US, if you count MSBs and things like that. So it's a completely different game. And that's, I mean, I think that's why in the US it's much more difficult to have the regulatory body impose the rules, such as, you know, what they did in Brazil. Look at what happened in India, again, with real-time
Yeah,
payments
same.
as well. So similar thing, you know, I think that's why, that's one of the elements why in the US we've been slow to adopt all this new technology, not just real-time payments, but open banking in general. And so here in the US, I'll bet that we'll continue to have kind of a hybrid system, and that opens up, right, the space for someone like you who has the technology. Let me find a sponsor bank that has the license, right? And together will be the bridge for all these fintechs, right, to come in and offer banking services sponsored by the bank, but, you know, powered by your technology.
But
Yeah.
because I think that is not real. The situation in America is different because it's a big club of 10, 20 banks. They made a decision, everything in the system. Yeah, I don't believe it. They're going to move forward because the difference between another country is another country has, for example, Brazil or Argentina, they enable the fintech and the PSP and all the people to participate in the ecosystem. In fact, now it doesn't do the same situation. All the banks or the system are closed for any additional participator, only financial institution. Having said that, it's very complicated to create innovation or enable something because Zelle is the competition for Venmo, cash, because was the only solution to take off Venmo and cash for the market with some closed loop versus open loop. I don't see the real situation is going to change in short time about our regulation. America is very close in the process because it's a gray area, no? It's an incumbent process for Visa, MasterCard, all the big banks. The system is very strong to stop the process to create fintech evolution.
Yes.
I think in America process is going to be more popular. Here in America, we are very, you try to open the director, you have the auction, you're looking at Juan Santiago, you're looking inside the ACH, in Nasha, you're going to find a director for the owners or some account owners, okay? But it's the only place you can find the director auction for the market. Another place is closed look, you don't see the process, you never participated, you need to create your own look.
Yeah.
You have to clarify the point.
Thank you.
My point. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because there's the good and the bad that comes with that. In the US, you have established infrastructure which works,
Yeah.
but it's almost impossible to change it. It's almost impossible to break in with something new. Whereas in other countries that don't have anything, the world is completely open. But at the same time, you've got all the pitfalls that we in the West have tripped over the last 60 years. And it's like, you need to watch out for those. So
yeah, but moving, Nick, you know about it. 50% of the economy is going to be in digital wallet. The more for another duration, it's real time. Where are like,
well, the trouble I see with mobile wallets is that they're phenomenal, but they're also closed systems.
But yeah, it's coming.
And
it's coming.
And so then what happens? Then everybody ends up with accounts in the mobile wallets, and then they move all their money out of banks because the banks don't talk to each other very well. That's a slippery path.
No, but look at
because then you get who's got the biggest mobile wallet? WhatsApp payments, maybe.
Yeah, but PayPal opened Visa with Visa made a deal to open the digital wallet connectivity in Europe. It's not going to start enable between.
You've got Visa Plus, and
yeah,
there's this race to be the underlying interoperability mechanism, right?
Yeah, it's coming interesting. That's another conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely warrants a whole conversation, the US market and FedNow. And what I think is fascinating about FedNow is nobody knows about it. No, I mean, 99.5% of the population has no idea what it is, nor do they care, nor do they really need it. Whereas PIX was so aggressively marketed to the population by the banks, right? So another huge difference.
Well, there was another aspect of PIX was desperately needed.
Yeah.
FedNow is like, is it really needed? Does it matter that much to most people? Not really, because stuff works here. So
Yeah.
it's
I
a
mean,
very
but-
different
Well,
story.
it works, but it's not, I mean, it's not perfect, right? So let me share my personal experience. So as an individual and as a business owner, right? So as a business owner, for instance, my checking account with a regional bank, right? I mean, I'm completely, unhappy and dissatisfied with that product. They charge me $15 a month just to have the ability to send an ACH out. Come on, in 2023. And I mean, I don't mind, it's the cost of doing business, $180, $200 a year, but I mean, I would expect that my checking account would have that functionality out of that without incurring any additional fees. Anyhow, and it's really a pain in the ass to, I'm sorry, excuse my French, as a user
I
experience.
think that is the technical term, actually.
Right. And then as a consumer, right? I mean, I'm fine with Venmo. Forget about Zelle. Zelle is really weird. And Venmo being owned by PayPal, right? Replace, I guess, the PayPal application, which I guess I was one of the first to join in 1989 or something like that. I mean, prior to America Online and connecting with a 128 modem, things like that. Anyhow, I think that I agree with you guys. I mean, the system works in the US, but can it improve? I think so, with real-time payment. And I would submit to you that hopefully with FedNow, the transaction type that will be enjoying the most growth is the pool transaction, right? So far everything is push, and banks, of course, enable push transactions more than pool because of the risk associated with it and the lack of rules, right? In terms of chargebacks and returns and things like that. So I think that the real one of the strongest use cases for FedNow and real-time payments in the US will be driven by that pool transactions. And so merchants can enable then users, right, to pay for online purchases, right, directly from a bank account and save the $225 that the networks charge them, or the acquirers charge them for credit card purchases.
So I see that we're going to have
Yeah.
to have a session on FedNow, which we will absolutely
absolutely.
schedule. We're just about out of time. I do want to get back to Juan, but Edwin, I see you jumping out of your chair. So if you can limit your comments to 1 minute, I would appreciate it. But please go ahead.
More than a comment, just a question. Well, thank you for hosting this really interesting stuff. But I just had a question for Juan first. Well, quickly from my side, I'm Edwin Rivas, CMO of Gen3. We're a Bitcoin infrastructure company based in El Salvador, and we work with the government of El Salvador for the Bitcoin law there. And we have a wallet, the digital wallet, that's launching soon, and it's designed for Latin America and the developing markets. I'm just wondering, Juan, very interesting, for your debit card product, how will you expand into, what's your strategy for expanding into other countries in Latin America? Will you be going by market size? Will you be going by the crypto regulation, or how does your roadmap look?
Yeah. So great question. For the main countries, the main 6 countries I mentioned, we have local issuance. That means we can issue local cards in each country. But Visa has actually launched a program for crypto specifically, which I think is fantastic, which is they're allowing cross-border issuing. That means you can issue from one country cards to all Latin America, right? Some countries have restrictions, but to the main countries, and that is really efficient. You have one license and you can provide, and it has a lot of fit with the crypto world, right? Because on the traditional world, the institution world, okay, this is located in Brazil, but where is a crypto wallet located? Where, Ether, I don't know, somewhere. So I think this is a very interesting program for crypto, which just development. And going one step forward, they are also launching crypto settlement. So you have the transaction in let's say stable coin, and the settlement is also in stable coin. So you can actually, the whole business is done on crypto. So I think this is very innovative, and it's going to have a great traction in Latin America for crypto, which different from the rest of the world. Crypto in Latin America, I still see a very strong use case, and it's not slowing down like the rest. Still a lot of traction.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Juan. Sullivan, let's go ahead and share our final slide as we close out. And I want to just thank everyone for your comments and questions and your passion and interest. And Juan, do you have any final thoughts you want to leave? If we can jump to the next coffee chat slide, Sully, that'll be. So before I just want to make sure you guys are all invited to our next coffee chat in 2 weeks, right? August 7th. And actually, we will be presenting new research from PCMI, our annual e-commerce update together with Andreas. We produce this every year. We put out an e-commerce blueprint. So we'll be going through new trends and an update on a lot of to do with real-time payment and e-commerce wallets, a lot of trends that we've been talking about throughout the year. So please join us for that. And Juan, going back to you to close us out, do you have any final thoughts you want to leave us with?
No, just please feel free to add me on LinkedIn, Juan Fantoni, and happy to discuss further if you want to know more about Latin America or you need help about anything around payments in Latin America. I'm here to help.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing with us and joining us today. Guys, thanks again for a great session, and we'll see you back in 2 weeks.